the previous section, Insung was suddenly hit by a very large rock. Fortunately, B.J. Hubbard promptly came to his aid, but it turned out that what he was looking for was the mammoth's tail. This made Insung angry. What happens next? Let's find out. B.J. Hubbard turned away from Insung. However, the bald youth continued to try to call out to him. Insung was worried that B.J. Hubbard would be angry with him. Suddenly, B.J. Hubbard turned around and laughed loudly. He found Insung very amusing and foolish. According to him, Hubert is English. He thought Insung was a true student who was not ashamed to ask to dispel ignorance. Insung immediately became very excited when he saw the amazing shield of the goddess of truth. Mr. Hubbard, on the other hand, said that speaking the truth is the motto of his school. Insung still wanted to see or ask about the shield of truth, but it seemed difficult to talk to Mr. Hubbard. So, Insung abandoned his intention to find out more. Mr. Hubbard reminded Insung to clean himself up because the smell of mammoth dung was very disgusting. Insung apologized. He had completely forgotten. So the young man immediately took off all his clothes, turned off the live streaming, and took out the young girl. When Insung finally took off all his clothes, Mr. Hubbard screamed, feeling that his eyes had been tainted. Seeing Mr. Hubbard's response, Insung felt uncomfortable and said he didn't know where to take a bath or how to do it. Mr. Hubbard finally said that when he was Insung's age, he also had no shame, so the young man could bathe anytime without bothering him. Finally, Insung bathed with the help of a young man on the other side of the room. Insung immediately felt refreshed after bathing. Mr. Hubbard praised the extraordinary abilities of young guy. One day, Mr. Hubbard wanted to ask for help from that mystical creature. Suddenly, Leo appeared at the entrance. She screamed asking who was in the room. Mr. Hubbard introduced Leo to Insung. Then Mr. Hubbard asked if Leo had finished using the magnifying glass earlier. But Leo ignored Mr. Hubbard's question. Instead, the girl was busy greeting the young girl who was still sitting on Insung's shoulder. Leo said she had heard a lot about young Guai and the old bald man in front of her. Insung was shocked to be called an old bald man, so he said he used to have hair. Annoyed at being ignored by Leo, Mr. Hubbard said the girl needed an etiquette education. Leo smiled seeing Mr. Hubbard still angry, so Leo took out her magnifying glass and said she was just joking and would return the item to Mr. Hubbard. But Mr. Hubbard told the girl to keep it, as they would continue the journey together. Leo immediately became excited when she heard they would continue the journey as a team of 3. Mr. Hubbard said they had to travel together to avoid unforeseen dangers. That's also because they both were Mr. Hubbard's students. But Insung remained silent. This young man still seemed hesitant. Insung thought it was too dangerous to travel together. He believed that anyone could quickly escape after getting the item they wanted. But in the end, this young man just went along with the flow and left with the other two. Insung opened the map and asked if they should start by hunting for the nearest treasure first. At that time, there was another person who managed to enter Dungeon 1-10. That person had the nickname Doghead. Mr. Hubbard wanted to send a message to that person to join their group, but Insung prevented it and said it would be better if he sent a message to Doghead. Insung was worried that the person would immediately flee after receiving the message about accepting new students. Insung immediately sent a message to that person to join their group, which already consisted of 3 people. But strangely, the person did not respond to Insung's message at all. This young man told the others that Doghead did not reply to his message and ignored it. Mr. Hubbard said to let the person be because maybe they wanted to move alone. After all, everyone works differently. They arrived at a street marked with the symbol of a large cat. Without hesitation, the 3 of them entered the door leading to the underground chamber. This time, inside the room, they beheld the sight of a lush and beautiful forest. Mr. Hubbard explained that the place was a dungeon within a dungeon. They remained vigilant as they did not spot any monster presence. The system explained that Smilotan monsters would soon appear, and they couldn't leave the place until they defeated these monsters. Suddenly, a fairly large monster emerged from the bushes and lunged at Leo. Fortunately, Insung's response was swift. He immediately threw his spear, hitting the monster's abdomen accurately. Leo added to the attack by shooting arrows at the monster's legs. Angered by the continuous assault, the monster leaped to attack Insung. Fortunately, the young man managed to evade in time. Then Mr. Hubbard stepped forward, attacking the monster with his large shield, stating that it was the true power of the great Hubbard. With their combined efforts, they swiftly defeated the monster. Insung smiled, realizing that teamwork indeed made everything easier, especially since both of them possessed remarkable abilities. They began to collect parts of the monster's body. The system appeared, announcing that they were all entitled to receive 1,000 votes as a reward. Insung noticed that the leopard had 6 front claws and 4 back claws. The young man wondered if there was a hidden meaning behind this. Suddenly, Mr. Hubbard shouted as he found a rather long gift box. They both approached to see what was inside the box. Upon opening it, they found a large and beautiful arrow. The system explained that the arrow could only be used once to shoot down the moon or the sun. Go and Sung examined the arrow carefully, pondering whether they should shoot down the sun in this game. Go and Sung handed the bow to Leo, saying, "I think this arrow will suit you, Leo, as you're the bow user, and soon they'll find your celestial bow." Leo was very grateful for the gift of the arrow. He then asked Go and Sung not to be so formal as he was much easier going than Go and Sung. Hearing this, Go and Sung agreed in response. At that moment, the system suddenly appeared, announcing that Beauty had successfully entered Dungeon 1-10. Go and Sung smiled happily upon hearing it. He asked Mr. Hubbard and Leo if they minded inviting Beauty to join their team. Before this, Go and Sung had already completed Dungeon 1-5 with the girl. The other two team members didn't mind having an additional member join them. Go and Sung immediately sent a message to the girl, saying that Beauty was very late this time, worrying that she might have died. But with a frustrated tone, Beauty replied that she regretted caring about that person. Go and Sung was astonished to read such a message. He worried that Beauty might not want to join their team. Ultimately, Beauty approached and joined Go and Sung's team. Upon meeting, Go and Sung introduced Mr. Hubbard and Leo to Beauty. Politely, the girl bowed and introduced herself as Beauty. Go and Sung asked her why she responded to his message so rudely. He had been afraid that Beauty wouldn't want to join them. Beauty explained that someone with the nickname Doghead had been bothering her and forcing her to join them. Go and Sung now understood that the girl had mistaken that person for Doghead. Beauty was very angry, thinking that the guy claimed to have more balloons than her. Leo then revealed that he also received a message from Doghead. Mr. Hubbard had also received a message from that person but only read it without responding. Go and Sung, feeling surprised, realized that the person seemed to be trying to plot behind the back of the number 1 figure, which was himself. The person with the nickname Doghead was trying to convince some other players that he could pay them because he had many balloons. Doghead promised to let them all pass quickly as long as they helped him become the champion. A middle-aged man in a suit asked if that meant Doghead was instructing them to step aside after defeating the monster and let the man kill it. The Doghead confirmed this and explained that he would pay them more if they helped well. A samurai man said that Doghead had already given them plenty of balloons, so were there any left? Doghead smiled proudly and said that they didn't need to worry about balloons because he had an ocean of wealth that never dried up. And he also had a large seaweed behind him. Suddenly, the system appeared, announcing that a participant with the nickname Permanent had finally entered Dungeon 1-10. Impatiently, Beauty asked Go and Sung to send a message to the newcomer in the dungeon to join their group immediately. But unfortunately, the young man couldn't respond because they were all busy fighting a leopard monster. Beauty was annoyed and eventually joined the 3 of them to defeat the monster. Not long after, they successfully defeated the monster. Beauty then told Go and Sung that another person had entered the dungeon. So, the young man had to quickly send a message to him, or he would be asked to join the Doghead group. The system reappeared and informed that someone had successfully entered Dungeon 1-10 again. Now, 10 players have successfully entered. Beauty immediately sent a message to that person, saying that this could not be postponed any longer. I had to contact that person before the Doghead contacted them. But suddenly, the system appeared, indicating that they were currently experiencing a very serious problem. Dungeon 1-10 would lose its original concept, and the dungeon would collapse because an unknown force had attacked the system. However, the escape from the dungeon would continue to run in safe mode backup if there were any unforeseen dangers. Beauty was very upset to hear this because it meant that their hard work so far had been in vain. The system explained again that all rankings would be reset, and this trial would be replaced with a running competition. Suddenly, the ground beneath the feet of all participants trembled violently. The initially flat ground slowly rose, forming a winding and long path. The system explained that everyone had to start at the same starting line, and they had to reach the finish line to escape from the dungeon. Everyone in the Doghead group cursed angrily upon hearing the notification. Meanwhile, in the Go and Sung group, everyone looked worried. They wondered if they had to run in such a dangerous terrain. The arena where they were running now was tens of kilometers high from the surface. If anyone pushed them and they fell, they would surely die instantly. Once again, the system announced that all participants would be moved to the starting line. Thus, all participants immediately felt a strange energy, and they were teleported to the starting line. Finally, the two groups met. The man with the nickname Doghead immediately greeted Go and Sung, recognizing this person as "Please save me." Go and Sung replied to him, saying that "I don't know who that person is." In his heart, Go and Sung now understood why the person in front of him had the nickname Doghead. Because his face did look like a dog. Go and Sung looked at everyone in the Doghead group and thought they looked like a cosplay group. You could recognize them in an instant. The figure of the thin mustached man wearing a neat suit turned out to be named Azura. Then the man in ancient clothes and a samurai was Moonlight Swordsman, while the big-bodied man, but with a small face, was named Little Buddy. Beauty tried to call Master Huan, a short old man, to join their team. But after carefully looking at both teams, Master Huan immediately chose to stand by the Doghead's side. Seeing one more person joining their group, Doghead immediately smiled and proudly said that their group was the best. Seeing that, Beauty immediately cursed and scolded Master Huan very harshly. This girl no longer cared about her gentle image. The system appeared according to the map in everyone's inventory. They were only allowed to run along the track. Anyone who failed to run for 60 minutes would be declared a loser. The previous rankings would not be completely reset, and the first place would still be given a special prize. Namely, a special prize from Dungeon 1-10. Go Insung immediately received the highest leap prize because he was the one occupying the first position so far. The highest leap skill allowed Go Insung to jump up quickly. The maximum height of his jump was 10 meters. The system also explained that there were no additional rules besides running along the designated track. Upon hearing that, Doghead wondered if that meant they could escape from this place by any means. While Go Insung thought that this competition would surely be a fierce battle, but they both thought that whatever happened later didn't matter because they would strive to occupy the first position. Before starting this running competition, the system warned that a false start would result in immediate disqualification. Therefore, everyone was asked to line up. Upon hearing that, everyone immediately lined up in their positions. Slowly the countdown began from 3. Go Insung immediately increased his focus, muscle power, and others while preparing to run. As soon as the countdown finished, Doghead immediately turned around and intended to hit Go Insung. But the bald youth avoided it with an evasive attitude because he had already suspected Doghead's attitude. With sharp eyes full of anger, Go Insung told Doghead that each of them had a well-thought-out plan, until Doghead appeared to block them. So Go Insung immediately punched the annoying face of Doghead. The force of Go Insung's punch was so strong that it sent the blonde-haired man flying quite far. Then, all the members of the Go Insung team quickly ran away from the starting line. Beauty still had time to taunt Doghead by saying that the punch must have been very painful. Doghead lay there with a battered face. What was most heartbreaking was that all his team members walked away, leaving me lying there injured and alone. They decided not to make this a fight between two groups, but in the end, they ran too when they remembered that if they became the last ones, they wouldn't be able to escape from there. Ultimately, Doghead was left alone. Doghead got up and cursed angrily, realizing that all his team members had run away, then turned to the purple snake beside him and asked it to bite him. Meanwhile, the Go Insung group continued to run enthusiastically, but they were puzzled to see a large hole in the ground. Their question was finally answered when a large rock spun towards them. Everyone was shocked to see such a huge rock blocking their path. Now they knew that the excavation under their feet was to move the big rock. They all panicked because it seemed impossible to escape from such a huge rock. They were afraid they would die right there. But then, Go Insung asked them all to hold on to him tightly. In a very short time, they tried to trust Go Insung and held on to him tightly. As the big rock got closer to them all, Go Insung activated the highest leap skill to make a very high jump, allowing them all to escape from the big rock. Everyone was very grateful to Go Insung for saving them and finding a solution in a very short time. The rock continued to spin throughout the track until finally, the Doghead group had to face the big rock. Everyone panicked and tried to retreat when they saw the very large rock blocking their path. But on the other side of the path, someone was running quickly towards them. It turned out to be Doghead, who now had a terrifying monster appearance with 4 arms and a purple color. This was the side effect he got from being bitten by the purple snake earlier. The only woman in the group was very scared when she saw Doghead. She screamed, saying that the figure in front of her was a monster. But Doghead tried not to pay attention to the woman and immediately jumped to stop the big rock with his 4 arms. Despite having greatly increased strength from the snake, Doghead still struggled to stop the big rock. Until finally, he diverted the course of the big rock and it spun toward the woman. Unfortunately, not a single man in the group was willing to help her, so the girl died crushed by the rock. At that moment, Doghead said the girl couldn't accept help from a man she called a monster. Doghead then turned to all his team members and asked if he hadn't asked them to help him. So the monster-shaped man asked all his members to work hard together in the future. Finally, they all bowed to Doghead and promised to obey. Meanwhile, Go Insung and his group continued to run tirelessly through the arena. Beauty asked if the Doghead group died because they were crushed by the rock. Leo replied that if so, could they reduce their running speed? Go Insung answered that it was better for them to keep their distance from the Doghead group. Mr. Hubbard agreed with Go Insung's words. Now they had to face a very large stone wall. They all tried hard to climb the stone wall. But after the stone wall was passed, they faced another problem. In front of them now, there were several very large golem monsters blocking the track. The golem monsters opened their mouths and shot fire stones towards them all. Quickly, Beauty took her sword to slash all the stones thrown towards them. She looked very agile and skilled in using her sword. Meanwhile, Go Insung used his strong spear to throw stones out of the arena. Leo also tried to get rid of the stones coming towards him with arrows. But wooden arrows were unable to move hard stones. Leo looked scared when a fire stone headed towards him.